Okay, gentlemen, down to business.
Yes, gentlemen, down to business.
Right, but did you hear me go through the "Are you addressing me" routine?
I did get that bit, yeah.
He goes into court. They call the name, Garda such and such, policeman, constable, Garda such and such, and Dave Kearney. He leans forward and he says, "Are you addressing me?" They say, "Dave Kearney, is it?" And he says, "Are you addressing me?" And the judge said something along the lines of, "I don't know," stood up and left. That was it.
That was the end of the case?
Well, there was no case, apparently.
Ah, okay.
You're starting to get why I needed to put you two together, Dave, because it sounds from what me and Vim have been talking about like your approach is likely to be a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
Yeah. In fact, it's a nuclear bomb to crack a peanut. And it's already got no shell in it.
Okay.
What you have to realise is they're sitting there, they're a peanut without the shell, but they've painted it themselves to look like they're made of steel, but they're not.
Right.
And to be honest with you, if I ever go in there, I'm actually trying to be as careful as I can so as not to hurt them.
So the idea of, exposing anything is a bit of a no-no then?
That's dishonourable. It might get MI5 or MI6 on your ass, so I don't know if I do that.
So exposing the fraud is dishonourable?
How about allowing...
I mean, that's all out there anyway. So,
right.
If you want them to recognise you as a sovereign man, then you got to behave like one. Right. So you got to behave with dignity and decorum, not respect. You don't have to show them respect, but you show yourself respect by behaving with dignity and decorum.
Sure.
They see that they can feel it off you. So if they say, case number blah, 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 Dave Murphy, yada, yada, well, are you addressing me? If they say, yes, I'm addressing you, who is addressing me? Well, they would say, oh, well, I'm Judge such and such. He said the magic word. Under God, so help me God, that is your oath. Now we have a binding contract. And you say it in one breath. You make sure you draw your breath in. Boom, and you fire it out. One breath. Even if you're being pepper sprayed, you'll get to the end of that sentence.
Yeah.
Now he is on oath. So now if he's talking to you, that's his oath, whether he likes it or not.
Right. But, typically, they won't admit the judge as such.
If he says judge, magistrate, sheriff, sheriffalty, bailiff, and 101 other different titles. There's a heap of titles. Once he says he's an officer, you give him the oath.
Yeah, but we saw in Roger Hayes' case, he wouldn't give anything away. So
yeah, no, that's
it's
well.
Like, it's
let me interrupt you there for a sec.
Okay,
let me interrupt you for a sec. Roger went about it completely the wrong way, my friend. And I like what Roger did in one regard, but he went the wrong way about it. Roger went in and he assumed that man was a judge. He didn't know he was a judge. He may have been an undersheriff.
Okay.
Then he didn't ask him who he was. He tried to tell him who he was. Then he called the constable, and you should listen to what that man said to the constable. Listen to that recording again. He said to the constable, well, actually, they called for a policeman when they should have called for a constable before. Mm-hmm. He said to that constable, I have been sitting as a judge for 12 years. He didn't say he was the judge. Now, if you'll want, I'll read it.
You see now, I needed to get you on the phone with Vinny, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Page 119 on this book is called Outlines of Constitutional Law, Chalmers and Asquith, 1922 edition. I'm going to read this to you. It's only one page. The Sheriff, Vice Combs, was formerly the deputy of the Earl or Earldoman of the Shire. And when the Bishop and Earl gradually desisted from judicial work at the county court, the Sheriff took upon himself their functions. When in the reign of Henry II, King's justice began to override local justice, it frequently fell to the lot of the Sheriff to execute the King's writs. To this circumstance can be attributed the present function of the sheriff in executing writs of feri facias, elegit, capias, etc. There are two kinds of sheriffs. Now get this. Sheriffs of counties and sheriffs of certain ancient cities and boroughs.
Right.
Chosen by those towns. I keep telling everybody sheriffs are elected. Nobody seems to know that. They have to be elected. The county sheriff is elected in the following manner. The Chancellor of the Exchequer and certain judges of the High Court meet at the Royal Palace of Justice, the Strand, Middlesex, on November the 12th in each year, and choose 3 men of sufficient means from the county. The sovereign pricks, that's P-R-I-C-K-S, pricks the name of one of these 3 men who is then duly constituted sheriff of the county for the year. The sheriff is bound to serve without salary, but he is consoled by the fact that he takes precedence over the entire county, the Lord Lieutenant excepted. That doesn't mean the Lord Lieutenant is over the sheriff, it just means he's not over the Lord Lieutenant.
Right.
Now, here we go. If he refuses his services, he can be fined. His duties are to execute High Court writs, summon juries, supervise executions of persons sentenced to death, and perform the duty of returning officer at a parliamentary election.
Right.
Since the passing of the Prisons Act, this is the bit I was telling you, since the passing of the Prisons Act 1877, the sheriff has no longer control over prisoners in his county. He has to wait upon the judges at the assizes and to pay liberally for their entertainment. Though almost all the duties of the sheriff are undertaken by his deputy, the under-sheriff, the former, being the sheriff, is responsible for the acts of the under-sheriff and all persons engaged under him. For example, locksmith, constables, policemen, bailiffs who execute writs of execution, etc., etc. Where the sheriff's underlings commit tortious acts in the course of their employment, the sheriff is responsible. Then it says, e.g., trespassing in a man's house. When judgment has been entered in the High Court for an unliquidated amount, which is interlocutory judgment, it often falls to the lot of the sheriff to assess the damages. On these occasions, now here we go, on these occasions, the under-sheriff sits in court as judge and hears both sides on the question of damages and all matters relevant thereto.
Oh.
So that's why he told the officer he was sitting as judge, not the judge. He didn't say, I am the judge, I'm a judge. He said, I've been sitting as judge. He's an under-sheriff.
Under-sheriff, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, is it likely that he's going...
He didn't lie, in other words.
Right.
They don't lie, I swear. I know people keep telling me I'm bonkers when I say banks don't lie and judges are impartial. People think I'm fucking bonkers, but it's true. Every case I've looked at so far, I can find that the judge is impartial, even if somebody thinks they've been royally screwed by a court system. They've usually been screwed because they fucked up. In other words, when you go into court, for example, if you were to say to me, blah, 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 case number, and I say, oh, are you addressing me? And you say, yes. Oh, well, and who is addressing me? Oh, I'm magistrate such and such. Under God, so help me God, that is your oath. Now we have a binding contract. Well, you could just look down at your paperwork, or you could call the prosecution or whatever you want to call the defendant over, and you could pick up the paperwork and you could throw it at them and say, don't ever bring shoddy paperwork like that into my courtroom again. Thank you very much for attending. You're free to go. Nobody in the courtroom has a clue what happened. In fact, everybody will think that the prosecution guy brought shit paperwork in front of the judge. Right. That's how they do it, you see. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
And what the judge will do is he'll say, next time that guy comes in with a ropey case, I'll go a little easy on him. And that's how it's done. And nobody knows. I've seen this done in court, and even the fucking barristers don't notice. They might kind of go, what the fuck was that? Oh, he's in a mood today,
Yeah.
But he's not in a mood. He gave somebody a remedy and nobody saw it. So the man gets his remedy, he saves face, and everybody goes away happy. And nobody knows, and it doesn't get out. It's beautiful.
Right, so, yeah, I see it. I mean, I kind of suspected that would be the case, that they'll try and do something that will save face without giving the game away.
Yeah. So, for example, if, for example, you put him on his oath, I mean, he might come back at you again. He might say, well, officer, read the charges. He might test you. He might say, okay, well, this guy's going to try something. Well, I'll test him. Officer, read the charges. Well, Officer Bob here might start reading off, this charge, that charge, rape, murder, sodomy, paedophilia, whatever, non-payment. Oh, and non-payment of parking ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's looking for a reaction. If you react, you're screwed. And because eventually the guy in the high chair is going to look at you and say, how do you plead? And you just look at him with a blank expression and go, I didn't hear the complaint. You'd say, officer, read the charges again. Read the charges again. He'll read the charges again, and you just look at him again. I didn't hear any complaint. I didn't hear a complaint.
In the form of a question so is there a complaint here?
No. You tell him you didn't hear a complaint. You're the judge.
Mm.
You just look at him and you tell him, I didn't hear a complaint.
It's about making statements, Dave, rather than answering questions.
You don't ask questions as such. You do, but you just tell him, well, I didn't hear a complaint. And well, the officer here read charges. I didn't hear a complaint. You beat him across the head with the same comment. I didn't hear a complaint. You're letting him know. I don't give a fuck if he read Disneyland's will. It's not a complaint. I'm here for anybody got a complaint? Now, they might say, oh, well, we'll turn it into a complaint. Officer, read your complaint. Oh, objection, he came here without a witness. Because the officer is the legal fiction, not the man. Right. And if they say, well, hold on, who is this guy? You've got a complaint against me? Who are you? I don't recognize you. Who are you? Let him identify himself. Well, he's going to say, I'm officer such and such. Is that the unit? Is that the suit talking, or is that the man? Which is which?
Yeah.
See, they're boxed. They won't let it get that. They wouldn't let it get that far. No way. You see, the uniform can't talk, right?
Right.
So the man is there jabbering. Well, tell him to shut up then. I want to talk to the officer.
Now you've switched it around in my head now. Because surely you'd want to talk to the human and determine if he's a valid complainant or a witness or whatever.
Well, he's already impeached himself by reading charges when he had the opportunity. When you say twice, I didn't hear a complaint, well, that's his opportunity to read a complaint. And if he doesn't read one, then there isn't one.
Right.
You don't ask. Why would you ask? If you ask, then fuck, he's asking for a complaint. Quick, give him a complaint. He's asking for one. So don't ask for one. Just tell him I didn't hear one. Right. If you didn't hear one, how can you make a determination?
And Dave, would I be right in thinking this was a stationary speed camera?
Yes, it would be. It's probably one of those.
So bring forth the complainant.
No, don't say. You don't. No.
I was being facetious, Finn.
Yeah.
But I'd like
so in other words,
bring the camera into court.
What I would do, let's say they say, a speed camera, blah, 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 number 15, fucking caught you rapid sunshine. Caught you you were only a fucking blur, right? Right? You were breaking the fucking speed with a sound barrier. Fantastic. Okay. So he starts yaggity, yaggity, yag. I don't hear no complaint. Right? And they say, well, it's a speed camera. Civil or criminal? You don't say, is it civil or criminal? You just, civil or criminal? You just make it a question by the intonation of your voice, you see?
Okay.
And if they say, well, civil. I recall signing no such contract.
Right.
Don't say, I don't recall. Because maybe you have bad memory and maybe you need to go to the psychiatric ward. They'll check your memory. But if you say, I recall signing no such contract, then that's their opportunity to go, hold on a minute, we'll go get the contract and bring it to you.
All right.
And if they don't do that, they've just impeached themselves